some of our major points include expanding democracy, which means increasing communication between the student government and the actual student body. We will also want to improve the condition of the school by increasing increasing and improving the number of events that we have that express our school spirit. So to that end, we propose to create an HSAS gala. We also want to improve existing events, such as the Gotcha and the Hunt, which are done with Gotcha this year. We also want to revamp the school newspaper and make it a representative of the school that we actually are. For the individual student, we want to reinvigorate peer tutoring, which was kind of an experiment this year, but completely failed. We also want to increase the role of the opportunity organizer and actually bring opportunity to students. And we want to push the school administration to get a new guidance counselor or student counselor who would address.
We are getting another guidance counselor, just letting you know, next year. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Lorenzo Garcia. I'm running with a sophomore, Aisha. She couldn't be here because she's doing community service for her community, like more productive things than being here. So it's easy to forget how incredible the atmosphere of our school is. As many of you have forgotten by now, I am a transfer from Xavier, and I've always said that I wouldn't have had it any other way. What Aisha and I plan to do is to provide an institutional outlet through which our student body can exhibit our aspirational energy and passion through dynamic, interactive programs. I will detail those later. Our ideas are idealistic, no question. Maybe even too idealistic. But that's all they said about the HSAS Swim Club, which I got approved by Shulman just last week. I would like to serve as an example of what can be accomplished through persistence and diplomacy. So I challenge all of you to join me and reconsider what is possible. Thank you.
I'm Jacob. This is Julian, President, Vice President. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's awesome that you came out to support everyone here. I'd like to thank all the other candidates for coming. Pretty much, we love what student government has already been doing. We think they've done a wonderful job, but I think it needs to be built on. So we're running on a platform of transparency. We want to bridge the gap between the student body and the student government, because ultimately the student body is who the student government aims to serve, not itself. We want to improve access to resources, and the main part of that point is that we want to overhaul the website with free, easily accessible resources for students, which include mental health, sexual health, and just teachers' emails and scheduling things that can make student life at our school better. We want to support the arts. We want a lending box for books so people can read whenever they want to. We want an arts competition. And really, we're here, we have our own ideas, but everything that we propose is amenable to change, because we're not here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve every single person in the school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott,
I'm Ruby Bromberg.
and we're running for President, Vice President. Thank you, student government, and everyone else for being here today. We're the only candidates with experience, right? And our platform is pragmatic possibilities. So we want to get out there, and this whole entire platform we can get done within the first half of the school year. So that mainly means more club funding, and the actual club fair, and the actual events after school, such as an additional dance for homecoming, a pizza party, or an ice cream social, and things like that.
Yeah, we just want to create like a larger sense of like school spirit and like a very specific HSIS culture. And one way we thought we could do that is like make sure you guys know when your sports teams win. Obviously continuing Spring Fest, Fall Fest, Talent Show, other events that bring us together. Intergrade networks like peer tutoring, as well as outside of school networks. So if we were to get like a speaker series, other ways to just like engage the community and create like a less cliquey and more cohesive atmosphere.
Hi everybody, my name is Joe Saperstein, and I'm running for Vice President along with Jade Lozada, who is the President. But she couldn't be here today, she has family obligations, so I'll be representing both of us. Our platform is about rethinking the way HSIS approaches your education, and this includes how the school treats the students and how the students will treat the school. I think we all can agree that the workload of HSIS is really demanding, so we think that the student government should give students the tools they need to succeed. And I think all the candidates know that mental health is one of the big issues in this election, but what differentiates us from the other candidates is that we are focused on providing structural improvements, not just safety nets, so that HSIS students don't hit rock bottom. Most importantly, Jade and my campaign is centered on practical idealism. The truth is that candidates can promise anything they want just to get votes, but we are only proposing things that we know will be able to get done and that we know can be accomplished within the framework of student government, and that these things will benefit all HSAS students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Habiba. I'm a junior and I'm going to be president, and this is Yoel.
Hi, I'm Yoel. I'll be running for vice president.
So, just like you guys, we had no idea what student government did or like the projects that they were undertaking like 4 months ago. So both of us got really involved. We sat in a student government meeting. We approached our current president about a newsletter, which he told our grade rep to send out, and he did. And then after we approached her, she had a more active Instagram page and stuff like that. So our campaign is very focused on transparency between student government and the student body. I feel like a lot of us are very out of touch on what's happening, and we want to make that more clear to the student body, as well as focusing a lot on mental health, student like happiness in general and comfort, transparency obviously, and just having a better HCS environment.
Yeah, so our motto is making your hallway feel like home. And I think that's a really important thing for our little tool shed, because feeling at home in such a stressful school is something that we've been trying to stress, and we've been really practical with what we're doing, and all of our ideas are very quick and cost effective. So what we're gonna do is small things that actually will make such a big difference, like shifting after school changing to classrooms, having students in the beginning of the year bring in loose leaf, small things like copy paper, tissue boxes, and those types of things will last for so long. Like Miss Hanau said that this happened 4 years ago, and she still has supplies to this day left. So these are just very quick and cost-effective things that will change our school so much. And that money that we save from these quick things will be reallocated to fixing broken printers and funding sports teams and clubs, and just continuing everything that student government has been working on so far. So thank you.
Alright, so thank you all of you for giving us like your platforms. I'm really excited to hear more about your ideas. So basically, Lauren and I looked through every single one of your platforms and based our questions on that. We'll start off with 1 question per pair, and then if we have more time, we'll improve. Feel free to jump in, like, I guess, argue with each other about your ideas and about how realistic they are and all of that. So we're gonna start with you two, Santelli and River. So we were looking at your platform, and you mentioned a guided meditation session and daily sessions during finals, because you guys are obviously advocating for mental health. So I just want to know, when would this take place so it doesn't interfere with the final schedule, because you know that could be really hectic, and how do you plan to actually execute that plan?
Is it okay if I stand?
Yeah, of course.
So the goal of meditation is not to increase stress, it's to alleviate it. So it's not going to be at any time that would interfere with studying or finals. The meditation as it's planned would be in the morning, in a room. There are guided meditation videos on YouTube for free. We can just put it on and people can go there optionally. They don't have to come, it's just an option for students who do feel stressed, who do want to alleviate a little bit of stress before the school day starts. And one note is, we're actually the only candidates who've met with Mr. Weiss and gone over our entire platform, and he has said that every single thing on our platform is possible and is feasible and can be implemented. So that, among other things, is possible and can be implemented.
Just to add to that about meditation, this past summer I was in a seminar on mindfulness and meditation, and ever since then, just 2 to 5 minutes every day I've meditated for most days. And it is extremely helpful just with stress and everything, and that's something that we really want to share with the student body.
Okay, thank you. This is for Lorenzo. So you talked about bringing back advisory. So I don't know, like, I know when I had it and like years, the next year, people really didn't like it. They didn't like missing out on lunch. What would you change, I guess, this time to actually let people, like, you know, so that people are willing to actually come to lunch, miss their lunch, and actually, you know, join these activities and stuff?
Okay, so I'm basing my advisory on like other high schools' advisories, because I wasn't here when advisory was a thing, but my idea for advisory is more similar to the smaller electives at our school. So you have things like journalism and stuff like that, and like personal fitness. If advisor is an option, I feel like that a lot of people would get behind that. It's my whole idea for that is just 7 to 9 students engaging in low pressure discussion about social issues, academic problems, or college future planning. And I feel like just something about the group setting and just being in a comfortable, safe space with people to discuss problems and anxieties is a really practical, simple, and cathartic way to alleviate the stress that we feel.
So when would this take place? Like, would this be? Like,
Oh, it wouldn't be a lunch period.
yeah, so it'd be like after school.
No, it would be like in place of, so you can choose it on your schedule.
Oh, okay.
And it would be again like the 1 to 2 period classes per week.
So it would just be them talking about like what's happening and like. Okay, so okay.
How would
Yeah.
a freshman?
Yeah.
So for things like that, you have to get a teacher to get on board and further steps.
Yeah.
And Mr. Helvey has already started the process of getting our schedules in. So this would definitely not be able to be implemented by first semester, and even past that, getting a teacher on board to give up their personal time that would be the periods they could use like grade and other things like that. How do you plan on, definitely getting these teachers first of all, and getting the administration to agree to giving up classroom space and things like that for these? We already have things like current events and those other, quarter credit classes.
Good question. My response to that is, I feel like a lot of teachers could get on board with this idea. Again, as we've all stated, that mental health is a very pressing issue at our school. A lot of people have a very hard time dealing with the stress. I know that I've been there. It's easy to get very overwhelmed by the workload that we get, and especially like we'll probably get to this later, but the lack of guidance with the college process and how lost we can get. And I feel like if brought up to and if I was president and brought up to the administration and the faculty, I feel like it would be very hard to not be on board with this, because you can easily, no offense to people in journalism, but you can easily dismiss classes like that in comparison to the mental health of our students and the
This is a follow-up question, then we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Do you worry that teachers are gonna think that it's just a period for kids to just hang out and not do actual work? Because some teachers, like, I know even if there is no teacher and there's no lesson, we're just sitting down and like playing cards, they get really upset and will get in trouble. So how would you like make sure that they know it's not just, and make sure that they're not actually like using this time to like just play games and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. We want to distinguish this period from recitation, or I guess in other schools a free period, by making it collaborative and group-like, because obviously recitation is just like the teacher's there, there's no order. This period isn't going to be in the lunchroom, it's going to be in a small classroom with a small number of students, and it's going to be guided with the activities that you do. So it could be like affirmations, or like talking about where you are in college, what your anxieties are, and it would be it wouldn't be like very, very orderly, but it would be guided.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one's for y'all. You mentioned a lot being cost effective, right, but also tackling mental health. And I know that one of your main aspects of your platform is introducing stuffed animals into the lobby. So how does that fit in with being cost effective? And how would you make sure they aren't stolen, like messed up? And also, what do you think they could substantially do for like mental health in this school?
I mean, I think stuffed animals, like you could think, oh my god, like really, like what are we, 5? Why do we need stuffed animals? But the reality is, and it's just, like I said this before, this is a stressful place, and I think we have to realize that. And not gonna lie, I have a stuffed monkey in my locker, and I was thinking like, oh, it's just for me, I'll hug it when I want to. But all of my friends have used it so often, and Sylvia, I think, posted on her Instagram a little collage of everyone just hugging the monkey after during AP week, and it was just such a little stress reliever. So in terms of practicality, what are we, like, how is this gonna happen? So the stuffed animals, in terms of being cost effective, we're thinking of doing a stuffed animal drive. I'm sure we all have tons and tons laying around being wasted. So we could bring in and just like choose the best ones, and obviously they would be thoroughly washed. We don't want hygiene to be a problem. In terms of being safe, they would be put in a locked box at the end of the day. And so throughout the day, if you ever just want to hug it, that's always a possibility. And then after, it would be like every day it would be put in a locked box. So no one should feel the need to take it home. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't think like they're so appealing that you would really want to take a stuffed animal home, because I think we all have our own stuffed animals. We don't really need to steal them.
And it's also like noteworthy to mention that this is not our main focus for mental health. This is just a side thing that like makes us happy, and like we just want to implement it and like see if it works out for other people. Obviously, we're not saying everyone has to hug it and like stuff like that. And I know it's not gonna work for everyone, but it's just something that makes us happy, and we'd like to see how like what the effects would be for other people.
And they'd be washed like every 2 weeks or something, so hygiene should never be a problem.
And then just to follow up, what are your other ways of like dealing with mental health in our school?
So we all know that we have a therapist that comes in once a week, Mrs. Krosner. So a lot of people don't know that, and they don't know that we have her accessible to us. And I know she works for a nonprofit and like bounces between Drawing Science and us, but I think it'd be really helpful if we exposed her more. Maybe people could make more appointments with her if they like could, obviously all confidential stuff. We want to expose her more to the public, and if it's more demanding, then maybe potentially we could get our own therapist. I know that shouldn't be a problem for our school, because if the students need it, if the student body demands something that's for their mental health, I think we should be right on board and get our own therapist.
Just to clarify, I think we should be on board, but I just like it's not a definite thing just because it costs money to get our therapist. So yeah.
Yeah, but also just want to say that because a lot of our platform is made up of quick fixes that don't require money, we do want to allocate, so obviously not like the whole budget or more than half or anything like that, but I do think that a portion of the budget should be allocated towards fixing things and in terms of making students feel more at home and feel more comfortable. So if it means a therapist, I think it's definitely something we should look into. We're not promising anything that we can't keep, of course. This is something that like, student government will undertake, but it's an idea, and I think we could definitely run it by the student body, advisors.
Okay, Scott, and then Jacob.
So we talked with Ms. Krasner this year on student government, and she comes in for 1.5 days a week, and she completely books out from the first week of school, because she won't take an appointment shorter than 45 minutes, I believe. And when she is, she won't, break up that time anymore. And she can't do anything more because her organization, herself personally, also work at Bronx Science.
Yeah.
So their resources are stretched thin. Now, as for getting another therapist, the average therapist makes north of $68,000 a year, right? You're talking about, if you want to bring somebody in, this is substantial money. It's not a quick fix. Student government's budget is, plus the PTA. If you add in PTA funds also, you're talking about less than $10,000 a year. There's no way you can, have this for 1 year, let alone going into the future. So,
what's your question?
Yeah, I don't understand what your question is.
They don't have to ask questions. They can just comment back.
Where do you plan on getting, first of all, like the funding that you would need, and what is the practicality besides just seeing that we have the need for the therapist and saying that we need that therapist? What other steps, do you propose?
I just don't think it's student government's job to pay for a therapist. I think that's the school's job, it's the DOE's job to have a therapist in schools, because it's the benefit of the student body. And I think the fact that we're booking her out in the first week of school, like or wherever she comes, just shows how much our school needs it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Also, we're not boxing our idea within just the idea, we need a licensed therapist, that's the only solution to our problem. No, we're saying that we need a professional. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be any person who has worked in an organization that advocates for mental health and can, I know we have Ms. Harris and she's a wonderful guidance counselor, but I've spoken to a lot of people and they're not comfortable with telling her their problems. And I think that bringing in a professional obviously doesn't have to be someone who costs thousands of dollars, but even if we try and look up someone who could come in and just help us and give advice that's professional, that would be so welcome and make so much change to our school.
Jacob.
I agree that would be welcome, but I think if you put something on your platform, you should be able to back it up and say this can be implemented. And as Scott said, professionals who are trained psychotherapists, psychologists are extremely expensive, and I think the student government simply does not have the resources to implement that. So if it's just something that's a throwaway and a suggestion and something that student government can't realistically accomplish, I'm wondering, why did you guys put it on your platform?
I mean, the whole point was exposing the fact that we have a therapist, because I know that my mom showed me in the very beginning of the year that we have a therapist, and then so this letter was sent out by Mr. Weiss in the beginning of the year, and I only saw it by the end of the year, and I said, what is this? I think the main thing that we learned from that was that there was no transparency, and that's what we are focused on our campaign, because we have been balancing the aspect of ourselves being victims of not being informed and I think also we've shown that we've been investing in student government without even being on student government, having gone 4 months ago to implement transparency. So coming back to the therapist idea, I think that was stressing transparency, and in terms of the professional, we've never boxed ourselves into the idea of having necessarily a therapist. And so when we've been explaining our platform, it's always been just getting someone to help with advisory things and like getting someone's advice.
We're also not saying that we're going to have an established therapist. We're bringing to light who the therapist is and the fact that she exists. A lot of people didn't know that. That was part of our transparency.
Okay, last comment and then we're moving on.
Oh, okay. So, just curious, like, what is the significance of having, like, implementing this therapist in the school if a lot of logistical issues come up with it, versus what, like, let's say someone like Miss Walsh would do, which is refer you to a therapist, or if you, like, had insurance, going to a therapist on your own means. Like, why is that the school's responsibility is what I'm asking?
Because a lot of people just don't have the means to do so. A lot of people don't know how to communicate with their parents because a lot of people don't have parents who understand that mental illness is a thing and like getting help is also a thing. And I think if they feel more comfortable talking to a person at school, that should be more than like a welcoming thing to have. And I think having one at school is so much better because some people feel more comfortable in the school environment than at home.
Okay, and we're moving on. We've been spending so much time. This is for Joe. So, you guys talked about collaborating with activist organizations, but there is actually a DO policy where we cannot get involved with certain activist groups because it gets really political. So, how do you plan on doing this without violating any regulations?
I think our idea with that, it was to create a task force of students at HSAS who cared about the world around them, to organize HSAS students for specific causes, and maybe that wouldn't be specific organizations and it wouldn't be necessarily tied to the school, because the school itself cannot be involved in these organizations. But it would just be a way to use, like, I think when me and Jay were thinking, all of us as HSAS students are so privileged to go to this amazing school, and like the learning and things we do shouldn't just be confined to the classroom and like history, like all that should be applied to the world around us. And if we had a group of, or a board of leaders of students who organize the rest of the student body to go to these marches or to participate in gun control or immigration and other issues, it would be a really effective way to activate the student body and use our privilege for the greater good.
You and then Scott.
I think these exact logistical issues that you were asking about is exactly why Jacob and I met with Mr. Weiss this morning, to ensure that every policy proposal on our platform is plausible without having to be too concerned about these regulations and things. So we were informed about all of them, and we can tell you confidently that every single thing on our platform is 100% possible, according to Mr. Weiss.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I would just like to say, I think this is very possible. Like, students at HSAS are already interested in the world around them, and this wouldn't be tying the DOE or like the public school system to like a specific organization. It'd just be a way to organize HSAS students to be more active in the world around them.
Scott, and then.
So last year, it was just around the time of Parkland, I believe, and we were planning the school dance. And it was Riley Gordon and Alex Hinton, the president, vice president, they were planning the dance. And I said, why don't we donate some of the extra money towards Everytown for gun control? It's an anti-gun organization, and they had a lot of support. They were planning one of the big marches at the time that a lot of HCS students went to. And immediately, we were met with opposition from the administration, because even something like that, we can agree a lot of it isn't, political. And even if it is political in that basis, New York is overwhelmingly, for gun control. But we were still met with that resistance, and we can't donate those funds because those are technically school funds once we raise money for anything or have anything in our budget, and we can't put that towards political organization. So when you talk about, why can't we do this as an outside thing of student government? Well, why can't, Joe Saperstein, the individual on his own, create that same policy, being that student government can't do it on the first place, and even student government endorsing this in the first place would be met with, restrictions.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I'm not even talking about money or anything. Like, I'm not saying HSAS students should use like that form to change the world. I'm saying like literally organizing students to go to marches, informing them of things that are going on in the city, just like having a way to organize students to help the world. not necessarily using student or like school funds to donate to charities.
Okay, last comment.
So I would actually argue that HSAS students are already very informed about all the social issues that we have. Whenever something big happens and it's a pressing issue, I feel like a lot of people will take their own initiative on putting it on their stories or posting it. And just like again with last year, different scenario. There was I think there was a walkout and a gun control march that was in Washington Square Park, and there was a lot of unity in there, and there's a lot of strong voices from our school, and it was really beautiful to see. And I think I just want to ask, like, what would be the difference between what that was versus like organizing it in like student government?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think when people post on their stories, like, that's great. I just think that would bridge the gap between social media and like actual action. For example, there was a climate march a couple weeks ago. I went to it with only 6 other HSAS students. Schools all over the city were like listed on social media, like being involved. Our school was nowhere to be found. And I think this would just like put a small school on the map and allow us to be more seen with other activist groups in the city.
Thank you. The next question for you guys. So your platform knows a lot about like fun activities and all of that, and just I think one of the things that really stuck with me is you're mentioning raising more money for sports, because obviously equipments are expensive. But student government has a budget about certain money that we can give to certain clubs. There's $200. So this year we gave baseball $200 to get for their uniforms and their bats. However, that still did not, like, that was barely enough to cover, all of the expenses. So how do you plan on getting the money? Because I think fundraising is simply not enough, because you could do so much with fundraising, and there's also an issue with fundraising because you can't fundraise during school time. So how would you go about, raising more money and to cover these fees, and I guess go past the regulation of only being able to give $200 to clubs?
Well, one idea that we had for funding was the creation of the HSAS Gala, which was an idea that a lot of people were raising in recent weeks. And basically, the Gala would have been an opportunity for people to come and show off like interesting outfits, or it's kind of like a fashion show. And through this, we would be fundraising. It would be done after school, so I don't think there would be that conflict with school time being used to fundraise. But we'd also divert funds to sports equipment.
And also we're not only going to fundraise. We're also going to have like people donate like any sports equipment they have that they don't use. So that'll also help with bringing in new sports equipment.
Just a note on your gala. So I know this from being on student government for 3 years, but just like dances in general, we tend to spend more than the amount that we actually gain. So how would you, I guess, go about raising more money than we actually spend?
No, I mean, I don't think precedent necessarily has to be what we actually accomplish. Like, if we organized a dance, we would budget it so that what amount we spend wouldn't actually exceed what we earn.
Just a little, like, I guess to talk about money. Our dances have not been successful, and we tend to spend $500 and make about like $200 back. So, yeah, Jacob, yeah.
I mean, precedent is there for a reason. It's just like what's happened in the past. And I think Anika just mentioned that like dances haven't worked out, and like if you were to make it so that you broke even, you made more money than you spent, don't you think it would make it prohibitively expensive for some people who wanted to go?
Well, I think if we got enough students to attend the gala, then that would mitigate the potential high price, and we'd be able to keep the price down.
Okay, and last question to Scott. So, Scott, you are one of the people who are in student government. As you know, we've been having difficulty with like regulations, specifically for our lobby and our ping pong, which is taking a long time to like approve. So I was wondering, how would you break that cycle so student government can get more things done?
Thank you, Anika. So our platform, it's called Pragmatic Possibilities. It's on our Instagram, SB for HSAS. All of the things there we can do without administration approval within the first half of the year. So everything from club funding, which goes straight from the PTA, to having an actual club fair and those after-school activities, we can do that without the explicit approval of the administration. So that won't be the roadblock. Going forward into that second half of the year, I still want to push through what we've been doing this year, right? So this year, student government made enormous strides on redoing our lobby and getting a ping pong table for our school, and we're at like 85% of the way there, right? We have the funding, we know where the money's coming from, we know what model we're getting, everything. Only thing is, when we ask Mr. Weiss, they have to call in the DOE lawyers, because there is, no joke, a law team specifically put aside for our school so that when we call, they can ask about liability. And you might not think ping pong is like an actual sport, but you need someone who's certified in CPR to even operate a ping pong table. So that's the level of minutia that we're getting into, where Mr. Schulman needs to be there to watch us hit little paddles.
Just to add on, to give context to that, there also an issue of space. There needs to be a certain amount of space blocked for the ping pong tables. So just little things like that get stuck. So I just want to I guess going deeper. How would you maybe do something scheduling better? I don't know.
So first of all, it's progression of actually getting those things in the first place, right? Because with those two issues specifically, which is where the administration has, stonewalled us, it's being held up by the lawyers. So continuing to put on the pressure, and I know where the processes have come from. I've been in all those meetings, so continuing to put that pressure. Then once we do get them through, the lobby right now is set up in a way, the proposed lobby is set up in a way where it can get through DOE regulations. It's just being held up by lawyers who, they don't even come to work on a Friday. I don't know about you, but I thought a 5-day work week was common. We've asked Mr. Weiss, and he says, oh, they're not in work today, because Friday sometimes they take a short day. So that's what you're dealing with here. But as for the ping pong table, I think if you have teachers in the areas where you're going to have the ping pong tables, just in terms of scheduling, right? So they don't have to actually supervise, and there are things in the DOE regulations, especially under the liability codes, which is why we can't have as many trips as well. But by using those the language there to our advantage, we can ensure that the school is able to say yes, because Mr. Weiss isn't able to in a lot of these places because of liability, but also we can push through these proposals that will allow us to have the things that we actually want.
Okay, so on to our second questions. Hopefully we get through this really fast because I want to ask each candidate. Okay, so we're gonna go back to Centelli. So you guys were talking about ending hallway congestions and having arrows on the ground. So this was actually proposed by Riley Gordon. So I just want to know, how do you plan to do this if a person, let's say, needs to go across the hallway? Isn't there they gotta walk all around the circle to get back to their classroom?
Okay, so of course we're not going to have security guards enforcing this. It's going to be a suggestion, and essentially the arrows are a placeholder for a larger idea of evidence-based policy. So we want to try out many different things to find out what works, what is most effective at reducing congestion, and then go with that. So it would be arrows, a line in the middle of the hallway, multiple things, and then we find out what's best. And this has been a plan with UZEAL and Hallaby, and we've discussed it with Mr. Weiss, and he said that it is possible.
So how do you go about, conducting these experiments and not having students, not follow through? Because I know with some people don't take student government seriously. So how do you, conduct those experiments without it not
Well, the whole idea is, if we're using this evidence-based solutions to different things to try to end this really annoying problem, the idea is it would be based on student suggestions, which goes along to the increased transparency. So we trust that the student body would be cooperative in these solutions, because it's proposed by them. It's for all of our benefit. So I think it's less the idea of finding an immediate solution and more about our willingness and our capability of trying new things just for the benefit of everyone, really.
Okay, and
Well, I have to raise a few questions about the practicality. Like Jacob said that he has multiple ideas and he wants to try them, but you only mentioned the line and the arrows, and frankly, I don't think that will work in our hallway. Like we've all been in the position where we've been behind a crowd of freshmen trying to get into Miss Ridge's room, and drawing a line on the ground won't help Miss Ridge open the doors any quicker.
Yes, no, it's a fair point, and I think you expressed that it was your feeling. This isn't going to work. And Julie and I are proposing an experiment with empirical results, what works best for our school. So a line and an arrow aren't the only things that we can propose. We can propose signs to remind people to walk in the correct place. And I think really just we have faith in the ability of HSIS students to make a small sacrifice, maybe standing closer to the wall, or not standing in the middle of the hall, or walking in the right direction, making that small sacrifice for everyone's benefit. We have that faith.
Also, just a quick follow-up, and then we're gonna move on. What about like the locker situation? Like, let's say people want to go to the lockers right after class, and like, how would you work around that?
Of course, okay. I just like to
You're
clear it
just
up.
gonna like experiment with that as well.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a suggestion. Like people are obviously going to be able to cross over.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like when you're moving from say like 108 to 133, you should walk on the correct side of the hallway. It's not
Got
like
it.
you
Okay.
can't cross over.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to emphasize that this is just one idea in a whole slew of sort of morale boosting quality of life adjustments, because really the truth is student government has a limited scope of power, but what we can do can really make a difference in just your day-to-day happiness. So, you know, it's things like experimenting to end hallway congestion, things like having Kleenex and paper towels in the bathroom in every room,
Okay.
things that can really help you guys.
Also, I want to say I'm gonna like not take down any questions just because we're like running out of time. Moving on back to Lorenzo. So you talked about having a formal complaint system, which basically students can like go to student government like I know like say they're having I don't know a problem with the teacher or something that they're going through, but don't you think like having a way to go straight to the authorities just speeds up the process, and also having a bunch of students like already know your like personal information, isn't that kind of like I don't know like an invasion of privacy? Like, do you think students would be comfortable with that?
I mean, here's how my philosophy on this goes. So if you are willing to, as you said, like just go straight to the authorities and not do like the middle step of like putting the thing in the box, then like I feel like either way, if you are expressing this opinion outwardly, not this opinion, the event outwardly, or the offense that the teacher did to you outwardly, then you're willing to find whatever means it takes to stop that problem. And so I feel that the purpose of having a complaint box in the center of the school in the front desk is so that you have people with theoretically it would only be like serious offenses or like repeated patterns of offense. I know a lot of people in the school, including myself, that had certain teachers that aren't necessarily the greatest to you, or they do things that impact your like mental health or your grade a lot. And so I feel like, so theoretically it would be full of those, but obviously in a realistic world, there would probably be some like minor, more petty problems on there. And the way I'm gonna address this is student government, including myself and Aisha, we're going to filter out all of the problems. So every like minor thing or like more petty problem that isn't really verified as extremely legitimate or a serious offense, we will consult on how the best solution, way to go forward, coping mechanism would be for that teacher. And for more serious offenses, we're planning on having personal meetings with the teacher and Mr. Weiss. The reason I think that this is super crucial for our school system is because when I had my problem with a certain teacher, I just talked to Mr. Weiss and he said I will talk to him, but his behavior didn't really change too much.
How do you ensure that like whatever is being discussed in student government remains within student government? Because I'm not gonna let people talk, and you don't want this information getting out.
So just to clarify, are you talking about
when you guys receive the information, is it just gonna be you and Aisha, or is this whole student government gonna read it? Like, are you guys gonna go through the box together, or is it just gonna be two people?
Oh, it's just gonna be me and Aisha.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I just don't understand how having this complaint system is gonna like actually end up working, because complaining about a teacher really doesn't get us anywhere. We've tried that, and I think sitting one-on-one, you might have closure for like 10 seconds, and then after it's not something that like continues on. The teacher probably still will deal with it, whatever the action was before. You'll continue with that, or she'll continue with that. And I think also, even I feel like you're gonna be a senior next year. Aisha's gonna be a junior next year. That's very heavy workload. You're gonna be working on college apps and stuff like that. I think you're not gonna have enough time to look into these things, and I don't think you're gonna be addressing it in a manner that the other person's gonna like it, because different people want different situations addressed differently, and I feel like it's just not gonna work out in a
Can I just comment quickly on the workload? Like, I just want to say, like Aisha's writing, but like all of you are gonna have a ton of workload. So I just want to say, like, them having a ton of work, it doesn't matter. Like, you still have to like push through. I think you had it. And yeah, really quick. We have only 15 minutes.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I don't, too often what we were saying, I don't know if it's necessarily the student government's role in the school to like address specific disputes between students and teachers. Like, I think that would be kind of out of place for like a president to be like dealing with like these little disputes, and like as people were saying, like, how do we know like what the correct outcome is? I think that's more of like something the principal would do, or something the student should work out with the teacher specifically. And I think it would be like an overstep if a president and vice president were devoting their time to dealing with like little disputes between students when there are bigger like issues that go on in the school that need to be for all students instead of specific students.
Last comment.
Okay, so I'll answer that in two parts. So one part is that I have many programs that are within my platform that address the crazy amount of stress that we go through on a daily basis, such as the advisory that we mentioned, but also a junior-senior college mentorship. Those things are more directed towards helping people feel less lost, less overwhelmed as they progress through their high school experience, and making it just a happier place in a practical way. But the thing about having like your president do it rather than just the principal is that it's not always the most reliable thing to just walk up to the principal and say, hey, talk to this teacher for me, and just trust that he's going to do something about it. I feel like there's a lot more reassurance in knowing that the conversation actually was had, and that you were part of the mediating process for settling the dispute.
Okay. And we're gonna move on. Sorry, we're running out of time.
So this is for y'all. How do you plan to raise money for junior trips? And because like, as we know, working on student government, donations and fundraising are never enough. So
Because this was it was on your platform about junior trips.
So we said that that they don't have an overnight trip.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
so that means that requires more money, like
No,
reserving a
we
hotel.
hear us out
like-
for a second. We said we're gonna try to make this a possibility, but I think we said we will continue these efforts, but we also wanted junior formal. So I just wanted to clarify a misconception. So we're gonna try and make this happen, but the point is that we want to give juniors something that they don't have. I think an overnight trip is something that's really hard to do, and obviously we try to make that happen. But
we know it's not something that's gonna like happen in 1 year. We've been trying to do this for a while. Our idea was to have, instead of an overnight trip, something for them to look forward to, like a junior formal or like a junior dance. And I think if we have that, they might, it's just a thing to make them more happy and more adjusted to.
I'm gonna take one question. Sorry, Scott.
So I priced out a junior formal this year because a lot of people were asking for it, and to have something in the same ballpark as, you know, like a regular prom, it would cost over $250 per kid, and that's if every kid were to go. Right now the senior prom is $170. That's subsidized by the PTA and by, you know, other dues. So, and then once people can't afford that, the price only goes up as less people can afford it. So how do you plan on overcoming that immense burden compared to the current dances like the one we're having in 2 weeks, where the entire school can go, so we're allowed to charge, you know, $3 a ticket?
Well, the thing is, when you're thinking about a formal, I think you're thinking about like renting out a space, this and that. No, we're talking about having it in Lehman campus. We can even have it outdoors. We can have it in the quad, or we can have it in East Dining.
Sorry, we're the quad. We're not allowed to have it.
So the East Dining Hall, or one of those like areas that we rent out for sports banquets or something like that, and we can rent that place out, and we can charge tickets instead of $3, maybe $5 or $6. And if people want to show up, it's for them. It's your choice if you want to show up. It's not. We're not saying it's mandatory. You have to come. It's not saying that you have to show up. This is a thing that we're gonna offer for juniors because you guys don't get a lot. And compared to $150 that you'd have to pay for a trip, you have to pay $7. And it's a night where you'd have fun, hang out with friends, listen to music and stuff like that.
Also, no one's asking to pay $150 for something really big. I think juniors are really stressed and they don't want to go buy prom dresses. No, the point is that they want just one event where they can just have food, talk to their friends, and just have that time in between all these AP exams. I know if I had that, I would just be a lot more relaxed, and even just having one event just for the juniors, just for us to be with our friends, just for us to be with our grade, I think would be a great, especially for you guys to meet new people and just
wait, this is a general question for all of you. Are you guys willing to go past 3 into maybe 3:10ish?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, I'm telling.
So if you're not gonna call it a formal, and you're just gonna call it a school dance,
No,
doesn't that
it's a junior dance.
Okay,
So-
okay, let me finish. So if you're
You're saying
Jesus Christ.
okay. Well, you're calling it junior formal, correct?
we're calling it junior dance or formal.
Okay, so
Yeah.
first of all, I mean the Lehman event spaces, they're not they don't cost peanuts. They're real event spaces that are enormous and do cost a lot of money. And additionally, if it's not a prom or some other large established school event, aren't we running into the same problem that we encountered with Abdullah's plan and previous student government attempts to host these school dances? And honestly, when I have free time, I never want to go to school events. I want to go home, or I want to hang out with my friends outside of school.
Well, so you're a different story than other people, like Yoel, and
That's true.
I agree too. If I had a junior dance to look forward to, I'd be really happy because after APs, I just want to do something with my friends. But it seems like not everyone wants to go somewhere. But if it's at school, if it's after school or something, all of my friends would want to go. And I think it's a fair point to bring up the cost, but I think it's good to just give something back to the juniors because think about it. This year we've had nothing but Hyde Park.
Okay, I want to mention that I'm not sure if the freshmen know this yet, but last year we had this outdoor thing at the end of the year. I'm sure none of you remember it because it wasn't something that people were excited about. No one looked forward to it, and even when everyone knew it was a thing, even if people knew it was a thing by the time it was the end of that ceremony. Everyone just left after 5 minutes because it wasn't that fun. So how can you assure to the student body that this will be something that how can you basically enforce a hype?
I mean, part of that is just listening to students and what they want. I think it's very often where they create these dances and they're like, yeah, we have popcorn, we have chips, come, it'll be fun. And I think we've all been there where we don't want to go. But if we set out a survey, just listening to the student body and hearing what types of things they would like there, then we can actually formulate a dance that people would want to go to. Because I think the point of student government is that it's supposed to listen to its people. So I think if you listen to the people and what they want in a dance and you make something like that, then students would be a lot more interested in going, especially juniors who are really stressed out.
Sorry, just a comment, past dance have been based on student ideas and stuff, and we still had a low turnout. So I just want to say
I mean, did you send out a survey? Because I don't remember responding to anything about it.
no, but people have the reason for grade reps is to go around and talk to individuals. Well, with Riley's thing, I'm just saying even with surveys, it's it's the same thing if you're going to talk to someone. But I'm saying, how would you I guess even if people are yeah, I want this and you guys do it, how will you again build up the hype because we've hyped it up and we still had a low turnout.
I feel it's really good to get exposure to these things before way before it happens. I feel for dances at HSAS or field day, for example, I didn't know field day was a thing my freshman year. Sophomore year, I didn't know. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't come to school the last day of school because I was away. But if we hype it up and tell them before that we have these things and these things exist, more people will show up. And I think just
also, I
posting
think
on social media is a really good example of how to expose it to the public. It doesn't have to be surveys on Google Docs. It's just to be comment what do you want and things like that. And I think what you said about grade reps going around, our reps did not do that when we were sophomores. I don't ever remember a grade rep coming up to me asking me what I want to happen in our school ever. Till like 2-3 months ago when they sent out a newsletter, and that was per our request.
And I think like the most important thing is not to focus on like minutia in our campaign. I think we are obviously advocating for these fun events, but the majority of our campaign is making quick fixes, and those are things like representing minority groups like the arts, like doing an HSAS merch design competition, or donating a portion of the roses, the funds for that, to an LGBTQ support center. So I think focusing in on important things that we're doing, like fixing the broken printers with the money that we're saving from all these other things, is more important when you're looking at our campaign. And the junior formal is something that we want to get done, obviously, without a doubt. But I think you should also look at the other parts of our campaign. Like that's not obviously the main thing that we're pushing.
Yeah. No, I know that. I just want to like certain things need clarification. That's the
Yeah,
point
we're
of
happy
it.
to give that.
Can I just do a follow-up question, because I think we're gonna like almost end, and then we'll just finish off with that. You're talking about quick fixes, and and you want, I guess, you could correct me if I'm wrong, like replace like I guess the printers because they're broken and stuff.
Well, we know
not
that
replace.
Not yet.
So like, what do you plan to do
Okay,
with
so for printers, we understand that everyone has a problem with like coming to every single classroom and not finding the one printer that works. So we want to have a centralized list and post it on a school monitor, and like the one that Kathy Zhu runs right now, whoever the next secretary is, they'll put up the list of working printers for that day so that students could go to these rooms and print. But we'll also have at the end of every student government meeting, the grade reps go to every single room that has a printer, check if they're good on ink, check if there's any paper gems. If there are, we'll tell Mr. Murphy or Mr. Shaw. And then we'll have a stack of white paper in the side. Miss Ridge already does this, and that's where we got the idea from, to have a stack of white paper on the side so that maybe the printer is perfectly fine, but there's just no paper. And it's really hard to get paper from the office because sometimes they're reluctant or it's just busy in there. So having a stack and like refilling it maybe at the end of every week, like every few days, is a really good idea to enforce.
Yeah. Also, I think.
Sorry, we're gonna move on.
His hand up, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we're running out of time.
Yes. Thank you.
So I'm gonna go back to the field day because I was looking at your platform and you guys talked about like field day and having like I guess water balloon fights and all of that. I think it's a really great idea. So I just want to know. Again, I think one of the problems that we had is building up the hype. Also, when would this take place? And yeah, how would you plan it out that everyone is able to come and like enjoy it?
Well, I think then that's sort of like a rehash of the debate we just had. We had similar ideas. We were thinking of revamping the field day that we had last year with more activities. Last year, we really didn't have anything to engage the students' attention with. We had like, but this year we would have planned. We would have had more. Like we would choose activities or design games and programs, and then based on what grade reps say that their grades are interested in, we would then have those activities available on field day.
Okay. And then do you want to say anything or?
Yeah, can I just respond to like both their ideas?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to say that I think I want to emphasize Jade and I's idea of practical idealism. It would be great to have all these ideas that they're proposing, to have junior events that would make juniors happier. But I think what it comes down to is what the student government can actually accomplish and what they can actually afford, which is why we're proposing structural improvements to make life at HSAS easier for students, so that maybe there's not one big event that kids are looking forward to, because that's just impossible to do, but instead there's things throughout the year that just makes kids do better on their tests, allows them to be happier students at HSAS. Okay,
sorry, I'm gonna move on, and we're actually, the next question is for you. So, you guys mentioned connecting students with psychologists in their area and other mental health resources. So how would you go on planning that, and how would you advertise all that information?
So our idea of this is like, we also wanted to open up the school psychologist, maybe Miss Harris, to walk-ins, although we've heard that might not be feasible. So our idea is that in that wait time, when you say that you have a problem, you're just given a piece of paper or a website that has a list of resources that you can use in the meantime, because realistically, students are not going to be able to have access to these therapists who like supposedly exist.
Yeah.
So this would be like, no, just obviously they exist, but like as we all discussed, like to the average student, they're not accessible.
Yeah.
We want to just like help all HSAS students, and by doing that, it would be like a list of resources with, there's like teen mental health initiatives in New York City. So there's like chat rooms and forums that maybe like students just don't know about, and like that, although that might not be like the perfect solution, it's just like something that we want to provide to students so that they can have like an extra step before going to the psychologist that they might not be able to see.
Okay. And sorry, we're gonna move on. And then I think if you guys want, we could have 10 minutes to just like comment on other ideas. So Scott, you're obviously on student government. You know how things run, but I want to know, Ruby, what are you planning on to like bring to the table?
Yeah, okay, so I feel like I've been very like experienced and engaged in the student body and the HSS community. Like obviously not through student government, but like I played on the tennis team, I was part of WEC, dance club, performed in a multicultural talent show. Like I'm very like about school spirit and like about creating opportunities to like share each other's cultures and ideas and like create a platform for like increased bonding. So for instance, in like for multicultural, we got like extra funding and brought in an African dance instructor, and like I learned a lot about African dance. I'm now gonna sign up for a class outside of school, and obviously that wasn't through student government, that was through the Spanish department.
Yeah.
But I would love to see something like that implemented through student government, like maybe on the dance team. But anyway, I think like a real point that needs to be made here is that this is like one of the craziest elections that we've had, in the sense that like so many people are running, and it just seems a little like convenient and coincidental that a lot of this is like happening at the end of junior year. So one thing that I'd really like to emphasize about our ticket is like I've been doing talent show and all those school events, you know, since I got here. Scott's been doing the same, but in student government, and it's not like about college, it's about like genuinely like being engaged in the community and like advocating for the well-being and like spirit and happiness of students.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna do you
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do, and then, I'm gonna say Telly and then we're gonna end it there.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think your implication there was that we're all up here because we want to get into college. And I think that like when I look around, I see a lot of people who do want to get into college, but also care a lot about the school and want to make change. Like we all have platforms, we all have things that we care about and want to make change. Like Julie and Gerber, like mental health, like we both had our struggles and we've seen our friends struggle. And it's not like, oh, I want to get into this college. It's like, I want to help the people around me and I want to see people's lives get better. And I just like to say, like, I am not here for college. I'm here to help HSAS.
You can comment and then we're gonna move on.
I think, showing that interest in student government and helping our body is great, but we need to have that leadership that has been doing it for an amount of time in the past. So for the Spring Fest, which we created this year on my suggestion, I went around and asked people to help volunteer in rooms, and was met with some, maybe I'll do it, maybe not. There was even a candidate up here who posted on her story that we should have more volunteers, but didn't volunteer herself. So
because I had a doctor's appointment and had to go home.
Right. Okay.
Let's stop
I
throwing
did.
shots.
I get you. Like I got you 4 other people to take my place. That's better than just having one person.
Okay.
We still think that having that experience on student government and having that experience doing these things, like getting to school at 5 in the morning to set up Fall Fest and Spring Fest, it counts for something, because you have to be able to do this next year. And if we don't have the leadership that knows how to do this and knows who to go to, then we might not be able to have these events.
Okay. I am so sorry, but we really have to go. It's like past 3. Just to end everything, just give me like quick, like why do you stand out? Why do you think you're the right choice for people? Just like a few sentences, that's it, don't go for long. We'll go this way.
Well, first of all, one of our few points are that we'll have like different activities on in the mornings we'll have like music played to like get everyone's day started. Like it'll really help mentally. Like music has helped me mentally with dealing with stress. So I think it'll be really useful to have that kind of stuff in our school.
Lorenzo?
So I just want to point out, kind of in response to what Scott said, but just as a general thing, you don't have to be a member of student government for a long time to know how to institute change. The very first day of HSAS, I think all of you remember, I had my little swim petition out, and I was like, we're gonna start a swim team at the school. I don't freaking care. Like, we're gonna have that. And then everyone was like, no, the hell you can't, because like that's just impossible. And we've had it before. It's never gonna happen. And I was like, screw you guys, I'm still gonna do it. And then, after many a meeting and many lots of paperwork, over half the school to sign, I finally got a swim club that's gonna start this June. So I really want to emphasize the fact that even before I even thought of running for president at this school, I've always been a part about making this school a better place, utilizing the resources that we have. And another thing that hasn't been mentioned that much is I'm the first person who has ever had a sophomore running on their ticket, a rising junior on this campaign. And just like the aspect of having someone who isn't just looking out for the self-interest of their own grade, but is well versed in their own like sophomore and junior year struggles, and also can relate to the freshman experience. I feel like that will overall make it a lot more representative of a government for the HSAS student body. Thank you.
So Julian and I, we stand for a lot, right? We stand for transparency, we stand for resources for mental and sexual health, but really what we stand for is helping the student body and making people's everyday at HSAS better. And there are things that student government can do and can do well, and that's what we're proposing. We're not proposing like a pipe dream. We're proposing things that can actually be implemented as confirmed by Mr. Weiss. And just to Scott's previous point, I think like you need 3 things to succeed in student government. You need to be dedicated, you need to work hard, you need to be smart, and you need to have good ideas. And all 3 of those things, Julian Gerber and I have.
I think that I agree with you that you don't necessarily need experience to want to make change, but I think that there's a really explicit difference between being like reform-minded and actually having the experience and the capacity to create reform. So like Scott has brought tampons to the girls' bathroom, which has been like a huge help and a huge also just like rights issue. We have the first junior newsletter this year. Springfest was created. These are all like substantial and tangible things that no matter how reform-minded you guys are, you can't really say. So like, I really respect that you guys went to Weiss. I think that, I don't even see that as a concession. I think that that stands for exactly what we're standing for. But I'd like to point out that like other candidates have actually talked to Scott asking them if their proposals were feasible. So that Scott is then the advisor on that. Why shouldn't he just be the president?
Okay, so Jade is not here today, and she will be the president. So I just want to talk about her for a second. Jade is one of the smartest people I know. She's so intelligent. The 2 of us together have come up with so many great ideas for the school, but most importantly, she's passionate about HSAS. And I think that's the #1 thing we need in a president. And the other thing is that the 2 of us together are representative of the student body. We come from different groups, different backgrounds, and I feel like we would do a better job of really encompassing the students. And that goes along with also the fact that we weren't in student government in the past. Like, we are up to the task to learn the ropes and to do everything we can to make HSAS a better place. And we feel that we're more in touch with the student body. Like, we know what it feels like to be on the outside. We know what it feels like to not know what's going on, what change is happening. And because of that, we're in a new position. We have a perspective of really opening up student government to the rest of the school and being that bridge between student government and the rest of the student body.
Thank you. I think what you all and I have to offer is a lot of diversity. I think when we look around here, we see a lot of people that have running mates that look very similar to them or are just the opposite gender, same race and stuff like that. But we come from outer boroughs. I'm from the Bronx, she's from Queens. I'm brown, she's white, and we have other differences too. And I think people that know us know that we like to get work done, and we do get work done. And I think individually we are obviously our own person and we get things done differently, but when we work together, the product we create is just exceptional. And I think putting both of our brains together and working for the student body and like knowing what it's like to be in their position and taking that into account is just going to create something substantially amazing. And I think the fact that what we say is doable also helps because we're trying to get change to happen and we're gonna do it because we know we can.
Also, I think actions speak louder than words, and a lot of people up here can promise all of these things, but I think we've shown that we come from the outside, and like Joe was saying, we know what it's like to be victims of a lack of transparency, though we've also been on the inside, having sat in on a student government meeting. Also, we've talked to the president about making our grade reps do their job, and I think showing that interest and showing that passion 4 months before this election even started shows that we're so committed to this, and we really want to make the change to make our hallway feel like home. And it's such a small tool shed, but we want to make students feel like they're happy, they're blissful to come to the school. So thank you.
Before we end, I just want to say there's like diversity everywhere. I think on this table, I think just because there's not race-wise, but I think nationality-wise. But anyway, I just want to say thank you guys for coming. I know this took a lot of your time, but I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that I heard your ideas.
Thank you.